by going through my teaching folders. I had a look the other day at the folder that I put together when I was teaching Hamlet last. Hamlet transformed into Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. And in that huge folder, I found so many articles written in the ETA newsletter, as it used to be, old ones that I'd photocopied from the Gestetned ETA journal, and then articles that I had bought from ETA publications. 2 of those I found. And these are still sitting in my files for the next time I teach Hamlet because they're so brilliant, they're so beautifully written, and these teaching resources are things that don't date because of their quality.
I look at the English Teachers Association publications nowadays and I think, oh, the difference and the improvement when we had these dreadful little, I think, Ronioed sheets. And I think also there has been a much deeper conceptualisation of the subject English over the intervening 30 years from 1980.
I can remember Rod Leonardo at that stage starting to think about, we should devote a whole issue of newsletter to computers in classrooms, and that was really, there weren't all that many computers around at that stage. So yeah, it was really important, that technology issue, I think.
I think at university you're used to that level of intellectual engagement. And when you get out of uni, you kind of miss it. But English in Australia gave you that other sort of feature, that other thing, that sort of the meatiness that you needed, because you're a bit starved for that kind of thinking once you hit school, because it's all very practical.
I would eagerly await that journal because sometimes it'd have really wonderful units of work. It had some really different ways, particularly if I look at some of the articles that were done by people like Matt Brown in terms of drama, because I found that that's, being in the new syllabus at the time, it was an area that English teachers had not taught before. So it enabled me to get some really good ideas, and we had some guest articles, Bill Shakespeare articles. Bill Simon, of course, became my hero. Bill Simon would write the most fascinating articles under different names at times, along with his brother. And then I started contributing myself and enjoyed writing articles for Metaphor.
Sculler, lash the stones, Cunard! No! Tennis the stones! So calm, Cunard, unfinished! Cunard, unfinished! Avenged! Give me that!
Drama was an issue for English teachers. It always was the domain of the performing arts. So when it moved into being part of English teachers' roles, they needed support, and that's where an English Teachers Association becomes such an important body, and their links to the theatre companies and to people that have that knowledge. So the Metaphor, for example, and some of the presentations we've had at the New South Wales conferences have been to do with some of the more challenging texts that have been set, such as Wit, and of course the more iconic and very challenging text, Waiting for Godot.
You're a hard man to get on with, Coco.
It might be better if we parted.
You always say that, and you always come crawling back.
The best thing would be to kill me like the other.
What other? What other?
Like billions of others.
To every man his little cross till he dies and is forgotten.
But in the meantime, let's try and converse calmly.
What we try to do through these publications is build in professional development and pedagogy in one package. And again, while they tend to be targeting HSC texts, because that's the kind of thing that gets teachers interested, it is more than that now. It actually gives some theoretical background. It will give very strong curriculum links and guidelines about teaching and ways in which teachers can make links beyond the texts to other aspects of the curriculum. So we see this as a critical part of our role in teacher professional development, and it's a way in which they can achieve that other half of their standards, the self-directed learning part.
The RTA approached ETA And they requested that ETA write some teaching materials that would use RTA advertising texts. And we thought about this, and I was very keen for it to go ahead because I could see the opportunity for us to use the RTA's funding to do professional development throughout the state for English teachers. We had a new syllabus, had been in for a few years, but people were still a little bit hesitant about what it all meant, and they weren't so clear about the underpinnings, the concepts that underpinned the syllabus. So we saw this as an opportunity to write something using a range of texts, including film texts and sound texts, and show teachers how they could use those and give them some guidelines about how to implement the syllabus. And so we were able to come up with a beautiful kit, and this was funded by the RTA, but ETA wrote it to their own parameters. This was our own agenda here, and then we were able to have events throughout the state where teachers were given free professional help, and the kit also free. And we had over 50 events across the state, and more than 1,000 teachers were given professional development through the launch of this resource. In New South Wales, the ETA has encouraged members in country areas to form little subsections, branches, or units we're calling them these days. But the branches are really where 5 or more members of the ETA get together for a bit of collegial support, and we currently have 17 functioning branches and a couple of others that are in the wings, hoping to get going or just a little bit in the doldrums. And this means that people can get together on a local level, because getting to Sydney for conferences and workshops is extremely difficult. It's expensive, the release from school is difficult. So having a little local group is fantastic. The Western Plains branch of ETA is the furthest west, and we generally cater to about 13 different schools, small central schools and so on that surround Dubbo. And the branch came into being when I was a Western Region teaching consultant, and I had to travel to all the secondary schools in the Western Region. I realised that stepping back and looking at the whole scene, it would be a really good idea if we had something substantial in the Central West that could hook into ETA expertise. So I sent out letters and called a meeting at the local golf club, Dubbo Golf Club, and we had, I remember 44 people came. I was overjoyed, and they came from 13 different schools, and we set up our ETA branch. So that was 1980, and it's been going strongly ever since. And we've been blessed with people who've come to visit. So ETA, as a policy, had what they called flying circuses, and they would get together a group of volunteers who would give up their Saturday and go to a country area and put on a show, basically. So there'd be maybe 4 sessions in the day from people like David Hargraves and Eva Gold and Tony Britton and Sue Gazis. They would come and entertain us and teach us at the same time. So I remember one flying circus that we had in Dubbo, and it was just brilliant. And they brought up Jane Mills from the Australian Film, Television and Radio School just at the point when the English syllabus said we had to teach film. And we all loved films, but we had no idea about how to teach the crafting of film to students, or the reading of film even. So Jane Mills came, and Dubbo School of Distance Education had just got a new tiered learning space, and it had a data projector, which we call the bejesus machine because it seemed to do everything and dazzle us, and then a big screen. So we had 83 people stopped into the tiered learning space all day Saturday, and Jane Mills showed video clips through the machine, and taught us all about film. It was absolutely fabulous.